I just think Bernie Sanders populism, which is actually for the people, genuine, honest, actually for the little guy, rather than the false fake populism of Donald Trump. So in that sense, I'm with you. But here's where I differ from you or from your friends.
Mehdi Hasan went on Chris Cuomo's show to talk about Donald Trump, the appeal of Donald Trump, why people like Donald Trump, but also the idea that both sides are equally bad. This was from before the election in 2024. I made another video about this on the channel. This was a long discussion between Mehdi Hasan and Chris Cuomo, over an hour. There was a lot here, and I thought this was a really interesting discussion because they made predictions about what might happen in 2025 with the election and if Donald Trump won. And the media never goes back and looks at any of these things to say, gee, was Chris Cuomo right about what he said? Was Mehdi Hasan right about what he said? So I wanted to go back and do this. I thought this was a video that maybe a lot of people hadn't seen on my channel. I will also link the other video in the description if you want to check it out. So we're going to take a look at Mehdi Hasan, Chris Cuomo debating about Trumpism, MAGA, what the appeal is, the idea that both sides are equally bad. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
In general, the kind of the freak show in Congress, the people out there in the base who worship Trump, who, you've seen the clips and you've seen the polls and you've seen the focus groups, that they will believe anything he says, that they will oppose anything.
I don't need any of them. I live in a place that he won. And a lot of the people who are
they're all rational actors
who are in my life, like that I fish with, and that,
and they're rational actors.
They are rational actors, small businessmen, almost exclusively, some first responders, and they are not under the sway of Trump except for one thing. And this is what I don't understand, why it isn't more of a motivational tool on the left.
Go on.
They are so I've learned two things. One, why do they dismiss his obvious flaws as someone they wouldn't want in their house, on their boat, or anything? Because they believe two things. One, it takes that kind of guy to deal with this kind of dirty system. And two,
Agreed.
They're all kind of like him, enough so they don't get to judge Trump and tell these people, leads me to the second point. They are so outraged, hurt, disappointed, put in the pejorative that goes to emotional letdown, that you don't get to tell me that Trump isn't worthy when I find you unworthy. And everything is so stilted against me, culturally, endemically, systemically. You're so against me and for everybody else that this guy is the virus that I need. I don't worship him as a cure. He's a virus. And I'm going to inject him into the political corpus and make you motherfuckers sick. Okay. That's where their heads are.
I've met those people too. I've spoken to those people. It's interesting because you're dividing up the people now. So we're not talking about the people who turn up at the rallies and the red hats who say he's the king, the leader. We love him.
Some of them do, but I believe that they're supporting him the way I support the Jets. That they are my team.
I get it. But you're talking about the people who say, look, we know he's a liar. We know he's a bullshitter.
Yes.
But that's useful to us for whatever reason. So let's deal with that in a couple of ways. So let me respond in two ways. Number one, that's why some of us supported Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020, because that anger is out there. It's bipartisan. It needs to be channeled in a fruitful way into reforming and, if necessarily, reconstructing parts of our system, economic and political, right? I don't dispute the analysis that American politics is broken, that the economy doesn't work for everyone, et cetera, et cetera. I just think Bernie Sanders populism, which is actually for the people, genuine, honest, actually for the little guy, rather than the false fake populism of Donald Trump. So in that sense, I'm with you. But here's where I differ from you or from your friends. The problem is that we as a media, especially media, have failed in outlining what is at stake and what is going on. So I interview people for a living, Chris, as do you. You've seen me do interviews. I'm aggressive. I'm combative. I challenge people's lies. I'm not disputing that politicians lie, politicians bullshit, politicians, right? Of course, that's literally what I do for a living. But that's not the same as saying they're all the same. No one is like Donald Trump. No party is like the modern Republican Party. I'm anti-conservatives, Chris, but the Conservative Party in the UK and the Conservative Party in France and the Conservative Party in Germany is not like the Republican Party in the US. I can deal with them. They're in a reality-based universe. I can have a good faith conversation with them. Not these guys, not the MTGs, not the Mike Johnsons. No. So we need to be realistic about the fact that they're not all the same. If people say they're all the same, that's great. But we need to be able to inform and educate them as journalists to say, well, actually, no. What Donald Trump did in the pandemic was unique to Donald Trump, right? Most Western leaders did not do, including conservative leaders, did not do what Donald Trump did on the pandemic or on vaccines or whatever else it is. And I think that's where, and by the way, the whole virus stuff, I heard that in 2016, and I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I can understand why someone votes for Trump in 2016. I don't agree with it, but Hillary's on the ballot, establishment, hawk, blah, 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 the Clinton name. Trump, he's going to shake things up, burn it all down. I get that in 2016, but you don't get to play that card in 2024, Chris, because we've seen him. He came into office. He gave tax cuts to millionaires. He deregulated for billionaires. He did not do anything to help the little guy. He screwed the healthcare system. He screwed over the coal miners. Sorry, you don't get to then come back and tell me this guy is the anti-establishment blue-collar billionaire. Then you're just in a cult because we saw 4 years of Trump and he didn't do shit for the little guy.
But they say...
So Chris Cuomo talking about his fishing buddies and his friends, and they are MAGA and they're disgruntled. I seriously doubt that any of these people that Chris Cuomo is hanging out with work at McDonald's or Walmart. You know, they're probably people doing pretty well. You could see a person working at McDonald's or Walmart who's struggling to get by and maybe falling for the lies that Donald Trump cares about them and is going to try to fix things for them. But the guy that Chris Cuomo or guys that Chris Cuomo would be fishing with, probably going to fish in their $100,000 pickup truck, and Chris Cuomo thinks they think everything is against them culturally, that really comes down to it's just racism and xenophobia. You know, these people, they don't like anybody who isn't white. They don't like anybody who isn't straight. They don't like anybody who's an immigrant. That's really what this comes down to. Because I would assume that anybody that Chris Cuomo is hanging out with and going fishing with is probably doing pretty well in life, at least financially. They're not struggling to pay their bills. They're not thinking, oh God, what happens if I get sick? Am I going to be able to pay a medical bill? So them being disgruntled falls on deaf ears to me. And when Mehdi Hasan talks about the media presenting everything as both sides are equally bad, this is the game that the media has played for so long. And like Mehdi Hasan says, you have these conservatives in other countries that are actually living in reality. Whereas what reality is there with the Republican Party right now? The reality is whatever Donald Trump says it is. So we have all these insane things happening with Donald Trump bombing fishing boats. We have no evidence that those people are narco-terrorists, as they say. Donald Trump sending the military into our cities. Just imagine if Barack Obama had done that, what the outrage would be. We've got Donald Trump tearing down a big part of the White House to add on his ballroom without any oversight on that. Congress is supposed to sign off on that, but Donald Trump is just doing that. Could you imagine if Barack Obama tore down part of the White House to build something that he wanted to build? What Fox News would be saying, what the right, how up in arms they would be. And like Mehdi Hasan says, people falling for Donald Trump in 2016, okay, that's one thing. Or even saying, hey, we're going to try this guy, he's an outsider. But in 2024 and 2025, we know what that first term was like and how chaotic it was. And when you have the people saying, you've got Joe Rogan talking about this. Well, they're taking away these immigrants that are just hardworking people here. I didn't know they were going to do that. How would you not know they were going to do that? It happened in the first term. There were all kinds of stories of people saying, oh, this guy, he owns the Mexican restaurant in our town. He's a great guy, a great member of the community. We didn't want him to be deported. We just wanted the bad guys, the criminals. We all knew what this was going to be like, and it's even more chaotic and more law-breaking of an administration than even, I think, Chris Cuomo and Mehdi Hasan could have predicted a year ago.
The economy was better.
It's a lie.
The border was not a nightmare.
That's not true. I can't deal with people's delusions. It's not true to say the economy is better.
Well, depends on who and by what metrics you're looking at.
I'm looking at the metric of 4 years. The Trump people do. They stop in 2019. How convenient.
Well, they stopped with the pandemic because everything became artificial in terms of how much money was being
Let's not
forced
forget
in.
the pandemic.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, although it seems like the left owns the pandemic. Again, for whatever messaging
I agree.
reasons.
I agree. They screwed up.
I get blamed for the pandemic more than Donald Trump does.
I'm sure you get brother comments.
Which is, and some of it is because of Andrew, but oddly, I own a lot of it individually, which is also always interesting to me. But unlike Mr. Trump, I have a genetic predisposition towards the no fucks to give. You know, one of the reasons people will sometimes say, if they don't know me, if they know me, no one says this. No one who knows me has ever suggested I get involved in public service in any way, anyone who knows me. But if they don't know me, they'll say, why don't you think about it? I have the opposite of what you need to be in public service, which Donald Trump has too much of, which is the desperation to please these people, have them love you and do things that are solicitous of that.
I mean, he's one of the most loathed men in modern human history. So
it is interesting, but it depends on by who, because, you know, boy,
by the majority of human beings.
Not we, because, you know, I don't lump you in with me. But in 2016, one of the things I definitely got wrong, although I believed that he was going to win long before others and won
I got it wrong. I thought $1 bets. So I was wrong on 2016.
But what I got wrong was how persuasive and powerful celebrity is in America. I didn't give it enough credit.
Yes.
Anyway, they look at this. They say policy for policy. I'm going with Trump, not because of Trump, despite Trump.
Chris, please, come on. Nobody looks at policies. Trump voters are not sitting and comparing policies. They are owning the libs. This is pure culture
That is
war.
true. I'll give it to you as an and. Inflation wasn't the same at the grocery store and the gas pump, and that's the most important economic metric. People felt that feel test of how did you feel 4 years ago versus now. They felt like the economy was better.
4 years ago today, we had an economy that was in the ditch. We had hundreds of thousands of people dying from COVID.
Right.
I mean, this is whole 4 years ago. My former colleague Chris Hayes did a very good segment on this, that you can't do the 4 years ago because it puts you in the middle of the worst year in modern American history.
That's true.
So they pretend that Trump was only president from 2017 to 2019.
And they give him a pass for the pandemic.
Even in 2017 to 2019, the unemployment rate's lower now. Most of the economic indicators are better now. Those are just objective facts. And I don't even try and get bogged down too much in the economy. Chris, I disagree with a lot of my fellow leftists who talk about the importance of the economy. I actually think the economy is not that important. If you look at the polling again and again, it's informed by partisanship, Chris, stuff you hate, the two-party game. I did this on my old show. You look at 2021. You look at the polling from when Biden becomes president. There's literally a line graph. Overnight, Democrats say the economy is amazing and Republicans say it's bad.
Yes.
Overnight.
It's
the
binary.
Didn't change.
It shifts like that.
It's who's in the Oval Office.
100%.
So forgive me when I kind of have very skeptical
It's 100%.
position on people's polling.
I'm fine with you about that, but you still got to take people where you find them, right? Which is as obvious.
Kind of. I don't have to accept people's delusion. If people tell me Biden didn't win the election, I don't
No. I'm saying in terms of understanding their motivations, you have to take them where you find them.
Yeah, I'm not sure everyone is honest about their motivations, to be honest. I think a lot of what drives Trump support is bigotry, is racial resentment, is cultural resentment. You mentioned it earlier. White people are being replaced. This country doesn't look like what it used to look like. It's MAGA, the whole concept of make America great again. Great when?
Yeah.
Give me the year when you think
totally
it was
with
great.
you. And
So again, to come back to what I said earlier, Mehdi Hasan says it really just comes down to the bigotry and feeling like they're being replaced. Again, Chris Cuomo's fishing buddy, presumably a white guy or white guys who are probably well off financially, probably doing well in life in a lot of ways, but they feel like it's all being taken away from them. And I talk about this a lot on my channel. These are the facts over feelings people, but nobody is more into their feelings in terms of ignoring facts, not looking at any data, not looking at the real world or statistics, but just what they feel, than MAGA. You can say to them, hey, crime's at the lowest rate in the last 30 years overall in the country. Well, it doesn't feel that way to me because I see, there's this and that and the other thing. And so it's all just about their feelings. I have a friend who talks about the tough guy crybabies. These guys outwardly tough, but they're the biggest crybabies that you've ever seen. And that is MAGA in a nutshell to me. Mehdi Hasan also talks about it's about owning the libs. And look at what we've seen just recently, just over the last week or two. We had Caroline Leavitt, when a reporter asked her who set up this meeting place between Donald Trump and Putin, and Caroline Leavitt responded with, your mom. We had the No Kings rally and rallies. And Donald Trump tweets out or puts it on Truth Social or wherever, an AI video of him in a fighter jet, dropping feces on protesters, owning the libs. And MAGA eats that up. They don't say, I thought he was going to fix the economy, not do this kind of stuff. They love owning the libs. That's what they live for. And Chris Cuomo talks about Donald Trump wanting to be loved. And that was something that I would admit that I was wrong about in 2016. I thought maybe Donald Trump would go in and say, hey, I'm going to do some popular policies so that I can get the majority of the country, a really big section of the country, to love me. Imagine if Donald Trump, I know this is unimaginable now, but imagine if Donald Trump did Medicare for all. Just be like, hey, I'm going to give you what Bernie Sanders couldn't get for you. Imagine, that would help his popularity among people who aren't really supporters of him. But it's been the opposite. He just leans into his base. Donald Trump, I think, is so delusional that he really believes that the majority of the people love him. And I'm sure that's what he's being told by all of his handlers. But as Mehdi Hasan says, he's one of the most loathed people in the world. So all Donald Trump has done is lean into not even helping his supporters, just helping his donors, essentially. And he openly comes out and says he hates his enemies, and his enemies are basically anybody left of center. But let me know what you think about all of this. I wanted to do a part 2 because I thought there was more of this to discuss. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree about these predictions from Chris Cuomo and Mehdi Hasan, and also the way Mehdi Hasan and Chris Cuomo analyze Trump? I think there's a lot that's right from both of them here. But let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.